Good afternoon, everybody, and thank you for coming to the High Energy Entrepreneur Radio Show on the iNetpreneur Network. I'm Donna Guinouard, and I'm your host, and I am super excited that you joined us here today. We have a tremendous guest that you won't want to miss. As I'm sure most of you have seen my posts all over social media, we have Marty Haggard with us. But before we get into our interview with Marty, need a couple things from you. One, subscribe to this channel. Two, make sure you bookmark all your networking activities at ntevents.net. And three, like us on our Facebook page. The iNetpreneur Network is where entrepreneurs, business owners, influencers, and experts come together to talk about their challenges and their triumphs, their tragedy and their impact. Let's get behind their stories and learn from their perspiration and inspiration. I'm joined here today by Robert W. Jones. He is the owner and chairman of Network Together. Hi, Robert.
Hi, Donna. How are you today?
I am super excited. You know that.
I am too. I'm like a frog ready to hop into a pond to grab my next meal. Oh my God. So great.
I know it. I know it. So it's going to be a great show today. We also have Mr. Jim Grant coming in as guest host today.
Yeah, and Jim Grant, I've really enjoyed Jim. We've become good friends over the last couple of years now, Jim. I mean, if you can hear me out there in Radio Land, he is co-founder of Speaker Pathway Coalition, and he's a treat. Every time I hear him, I get a little nugget left, I get a little nugget right, and I don't know where he brings them all out from.
He is one of a kind. He also is the host of Your Future Is Now radio show on TogiNet and has got now over 5 million downloads.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, Donna, I think you're working on that as well. Each week that goes by, I see more and more people getting on the Donna Guinouard High Energy Entrepreneur Show. I'm really excited about that as well.
Yeah, it is exciting.
And today, I can't wait to I'm just going to sit back and I'm going to have the popcorn popper making Jim and Marty, have a good time together. I mean, even before, like kind of doing the green room before the show, I mean, I learned more about, the old days on how musicians really got together and they were a community, who cared about each other, and together they achieved more, I think, because of that. And it's something that we want to do in Network Together in the iNetpreneur Network is kind of bring that spirit of working with each other back again.
Absolutely. It's important. It's important because we don't get anywhere in this world alone. And we grow more together than we do by ourselves.
Absolutely. And, in each and every week, as you bring on guests on the show, you do a great job of pulling out those nuggets, so we can learn, not just what they do, but, why they do it. And, and I think the inspiration comes from other people's why. It's not what they do, it's why they do it. And that's how we get inspired.
Right. It's what drives them, their passion and their chosen profession that makes their journey unique and beautiful.
And as a high energy coach, I've seen you draw that out of people. If you can put them in the right place for success, I mean, their energy goes up, their level of achievement goes up,
Absolutely.
Rewarding action there. So, it's a pretty amazing thing, to see,
Right. Thank you. It is. And, I have to say, Robert, I need to thank you for everything you do for not only this radio show, but in general for the iNetpreneur Network, because I've watched you grow. I've been a part of it for almost 4 years now.
Wow.
And we as a collective group have grown immensely in the last, even in the last 2.5 years, we've just expanded outside of what we ever thought would have happened 3-4 years ago.
Yeah. I will tell you this, it's really funny, Donna, because they always say it's not just the education that you learn, but it's the people that that are in the same room with you. And I mean, it even goes down to, you being able to to meet Jim Grant, and then Jim Grant knowing Marty, and then the connection that you and Marty had for him being on the show. Or it's, Jim Grant has a partner named Don McGrath, and I'm sitting there in a TEDx training, and then I get a call, and all of a sudden, yesterday, 8 a.m., I'm on a TEDx panel out of Vail, Colorado. And I'm like, well, how in the heck did that happen? They're calling me from Vail, Colorado. And it was because I was in the right room with the right people, and they heard my voice. And that's what we do here. We want the little guys all to come together so their voices can be heard. And if it wasn't for our shows, if it wasn't for our education through our academy, if it wasn't for our networking chapters, I wouldn't be up there on that TEDx panel stage in Vail, Colorado, and you wouldn't be, interviewing Marty Haggard today. But it's because of you and I and the people of Network Together. That's what's making this happen. Right.
We all like to play in the same sandbox.
That's right. Well, I usually tell everyone what's going on during the week, but I really don't want to take up too much more show time. But if you want to hear, I'm sorry, I'm kind of giddy today. I feel like I'm back in Texas, out by the brother, looking for crawdads. Sorry about that. I feel like my Texas is getting on today. But if you want to learn more about Network Together and all of its chapter meetings, radio shows, and learn shops, etc. in the academy, go to ntevents.net. That's ntevents.net. For more information about Network Together overall, you can certainly go to networktogether.net. Again, that's networktogether.net.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Well, I'm excited. So I'm ready to start this show, and we're going to have a fabulous time.
All right, Donna, have a great time on your show today. Thank you.
Thanks, Robert. Okay, folks. So I have the honor, privilege, and pleasure of bringing on none other than Jim Grant as my guest host today.
Hey, Donna, thank you so very much for inviting me to be a guest host on your wonderful show. I've been fortunate enough to actually be a guest on your show, and now I'm a guest host. Wow.
Right? Well, it comes full circle. I think that kind of worked that way on your show with me.
Yes, ma'am, it did, because when I just sent and asked Marty if he'd like to be on my radio show, he said, yeah, sure. Got a response back, and I knew you were a huge Merle Haggard fan. And ladies and gentlemen, I'll tell you what, I had to have Donna on there because, number one, we're family. And, and the love that she had for Merle Haggard, the energy would be there, and it was just a win-win situation. It was my honor to have her. And then whenever she invited Marty to be on the show, she invited me to be the guest host, and that's just the way we roll. And I just like to say one thing in life: if you look for ways to bless others first, you're going to be blessed too. That's what we're doing at Speaker's Pathway. That's what we're doing Network Together. That's why me and Donna are considered family, because that's the way we treat each other. We take care of each other. And I encourage you to look for ways to bless others first, especially in this day and time. Learn how to love yourself and then share love with others. And that's what makes the world worth living. That's life. That's the way we are. And Donna?
Yes, it is. And I couldn't have said it better myself. When we spread love, the energy expounds, and it's a synapses that is a ripple effect through the universe.
Oh, yeah. Things come your way. It's kind of like when Zig Ziglar told people that you can get anything out of life that you want as long as you help other good people get what they want. I believe Zig got that from Proverbs 11:25, where it talks about, if you bless others, you're going to be blessed yourself. You're going to be watered. And there's a prerequisite. You got to bless somebody else first to be blessed. So we're very blessed today to have a Marty Haggard on the show, aren't we?
We are. So, I would love for you to do the honor, Jim, to introduce Marty Haggard and bring him on, and let's get this party started.
Oh, my goodness. Thank you so much. What an honor. Ladies and gentlemen, Merle Haggard is the greatest country and western singer-songwriter in history, period. Game over. He's probably got at least 50 number one hits, because some of his great songs like Silver Wings never got released as a single. And that's just one example. But Marty he's the oldest son of Merle Haggard. He was with his dad when history was being made. What an honor. Oh my goodness. And Marty just says, he was just my dad. I never knew Merle Haggard, the music star. He was just my dad. He took me fishing, you know. And what an honor it is to have Marty on the show. Let's bring him on right now because everybody wants to see him. There he is. How you doing, sir? Welcome to the show, Marty.
Welcome, Marty.
Hello, Donna. How you doing?
I'm wonderful. Thank you so much, both of you, for taking time out of your day to be here on the show. You know, with me, I'm tickled pink. I'm as excited today as I was when I was guest host on Jim's show. I am hoping though today that I don't cry.
Well, you probably will if I know you.
Well, thanks, Marty.
Okay.
That'll be 2 for 2 on you.
Tears of joy are good.
I know they are. They are. Well, I'm super excited. You know, I've got some new questions to ask you. I was kind of, you know, going through your Facebook, Marty Haggard Music. And was it just back in June that you did cut a record with David Frizzell and Shelley West? I did. It Made in America?
Yep. It was a neat song David had written. David's obviously, for folks that the older folks may remember, Lefty Frizzell. And David's Lefty's brother, but David and his other brother Alan are my really, really good friends, and the whole Frizzell family were friends of my family for forever. In fact, my dad owned Lefty Frizzell's old guitar, so the family ties go deep. And but David had written this song about in America, and it was just a great song. He asked me if I'd do it with him, do a little piece, and you know, he's my friend. I've known him forever, and you know, of course, Shelley was going to be involved. I think Johnny Rodriguez was in. I don't know. There was some other people involved. And but David asked me, and more than happy. I love David Frizzell singing, but not near as much. Not near as much as I love David. And but we did do it, and we actually did another song together not long after that called "Lefty, Merle, and Me." David had written. So
I haven't heard that one, right?
Yeah, it's a good and go. You can go on David's website, and I don't know what it is, but I'm sure it's davidfrizzell.com or something like that. Find his website. He probably has a version on the website you can listen to. It's kind of a cool song that he wrote. Me and him did it together.
Nice. Well, I listened to this song, and it was beautiful. It was absolutely beautiful. And in all honesty, it's what we need right now.
Of course it is. And, you know, America, when I am red, white, and blue through and through. And when I talk about my love for America, you know, I don't want nobody to confuse that with the government of America. I've never been in love with government. When I talk about America, I'm talking about the people in this country. And, you know, we're being accused right now, left and right, constantly of being a racist nation, of which we're not. And I don't know much, but I know America. I've been all over this country from corner to corner, border to border, and ocean to ocean. I know the people in this country. And I'm tired of my fellow Americans being called racist when they're not. Racism is evil. It's hateful. It's of Satan. It's not of heaven. And yes, we do have some racists in this country. Everywhere you go, you're going to have some bad apples in the barrel. But as a collective nation, this is a wonderful nation. And these are the people that will, when you're in trouble, they will come running to help you. I don't care what your color is. And so I'm tired. So I love America, and David Frizzell does too. And anyway, we'll see how I know how this story ends, and we win. Okay. Satan's going to get his butt kicked eventually. And Satan, he's doing wonderful work right now in America. He's trying to divide us. And he's doing it with fear and hate, and but love and peace will always win.
Oh yeah,
absolutely.
You know, Marty, back in 1969, your dad really gave the Vietnam veterans and the American people something that they needed very, very desperately. And I know because in 1969, I was in Vietnam. Sure. And I turned 21 in August of 1969. And in September, your dad came out with Okie from Muskogee because he was sick and tired of the way things were going in this country. There was a lot of anti-Americanism. People were burning draft cards. It was anti-war. But see, being anti-war was one thing, but they were anti-us Vietnam veterans.
Well,
we were hated.
They were anti-American, period.
And then in December, he came out with, The Fighting Side of Me. And see, what was really unique about that was that those two songs gave the American people, the silent majority, a fight song, something they could cling to. And your dad, he didn't care if he stepped on some toes or not, because he actually stomped on some big toes.
Well, Dad had more reasons than the average guy to really appreciate freedom.
Yes, he did.
Everybody, we all have a reason to appreciate it, but when you're talking about America and the uniqueness of it, and the exceptional country that we live in, that offers you freedom, this is the country that my dad's sitting in San Quentin prison as a 21-year-old kid, on the wrong road of life, doing 1 to 15 years, and it was in there that he made his mind up to quit breaking the law, quit messing around, and set his sights on doing something in the world of music. And he came out of San Quentin prison in 1960. Nobody knew him from Adam, just an old ex-convict, and came out of there and went to work on a dream through music. And in 1972, 12 years after his release from San Quentin prison, he and my whole family was invited to the White House by the President of the United States, spent a whole weekend there. And I like to tell people, only in America can you go from the jailhouse to the White House in 12 years.
Right.
The vehicle that he used to get to do what he did was freedom. And you can start on such a wrong road and end up on the right road and turn your life around. It's only in America you can do these kind of things.
Yeah.
So in the late 60s, when those protesters, and they weren't protesters, they were anarchists, just like the Antifa bunch and Black Lives Matter bunch and all these modern day bunch. And they were trying to tear down the country that had given him a second chance. He took offense to it. He spoke up and found out that he was speaking for a majority that didn't have a voice. And now they have a voice.
Both of those songs, just jumped to the chart. They were #1 major hits for him. And the thing too, that, really is amazing that your dad took full advantage of the American dream. He was able to say, okay, I'm sick and tired of this life. I'm going to change my life. He lived in a land of opportunity where he could do that. And he did it. Yeah. And in the process, he sang his songs about his life. That was so incredible.
Well, that's the difference between what I would consider to be the modern music world and the old music world is the songs were more about life and the reality. They were what I call heart music as opposed to head music. And Dad, he shared his life in a song. He didn't talk much. He was real shy, or I don't know about shy, but he's laid back. And he didn't speak much. If you asked him a question, he'd give you a pretty short answer, unlike me. And but he was very. He talked in his songs. He told, and every song he was writing was about his life. Yeah. And I'd go periods of time back when I first got to Nashville in 85, 86. I moved out there from California where me and my dad lived and where we all grew up. And I'd go sometimes a couple, 3 or 4 or 5 months and not see my dad for a while because I was trying to get in the music business. Somebody would ask me, how your dad's doing? How's your dad doing, Marty? I said, well, I hadn't talked to him in a while, but judging from that last song, he's doing pretty good. He wore his life on his sleeve in his songs.
Absolutely. Now, I know the story. Jim knows the story, but a lot of people, I think, are confused because they think that Merle was born in a boxcar.
No, he was not. Yeah.
Right. Would you tell that story? Because that's pretty dang interesting.
Yeah. My grandpa, there's a misunderstanding out there. I don't know when and where it all got started. I have an opinion on how it probably happened, but there's this myth out there that Dad grew up in poverty. He did not. And it wouldn't be no big deal to me, except that my grandpa Haggard worked pretty doggone hard for them not to be in poverty. And, my grandpa Haggard had a brand new car every year during the Depression. So he was not a poor man. He worked hard. But the long story made short, my grandma Haggard had some kind of a medical problem. They were living in Muskogee, Oklahoma area. And but she was diagnosed with some bronchial problems, breathing, whatever. And the doctor recommended that she go to a drier climate than Oklahoma. So they moved out to California, Bakersfield, California. My grandpa Haggard left the job that he had that supplied for him so well all those years, but went out there and he went to work for Santa Fe Railroad Company. And while he was there, he had some money saved up from his prior job, and he moved himself up the line there at the Santa Fe Railroad Company pretty quick too, and doing well. But he decided that he was going to build my grandma Haggard a house, but they needed somewhere to live until they got this house built. So what he did was he asked Santa Fe Railroad, "Can I have one of your old box cars? And I'm going to build a little makeshift house out of it until I can get the house built up front." Well, we didn't live a half a block away from the railroad tracks, and they gave him a box car. He pulled it down the street. They parked it, and he made what I consider to be the first mobile home in history. Okay, and that's where my dad and my grandma and grandpa lived for about a year until he built that house. But Dad was probably in his 3, 4, 5, 6 years old during all this. So they did live in a boxcar, but it was just temporary until Grandpa Haggard built the house up front. Then they moved into that house. Now, when my dad and mom got married at 17, 18 years old, they moved into the boxcar. Mm-hmm. And that's where I was born. I was the one born in a boxcar about 3 months after my dad was put in San Quentin prison for 1 to 15 years. So we were the poor ones. He wasn't. He wasn't born poor. I was. Did that make any sense?
Absolutely. And I know that there's that misunderstanding out there. So I think it was real important to kind of just clear that up and get it right out there.
Yeah. My grandpa Haggard did real well at a time when very few people were, and I just always felt, I always wanted to correct the record that my grandpa Haggard did real well, and I wanted him to get the credit that he deserved. And, being rich, he wasn't rich, but he was obviously doing pretty good. And
right.
Dad, a lot of people think my dad went to San Quentin prison because he was born in poverty, he had nothing, he's sort of a victim of the circumstances. No, Dad actually, in fact, my grandma Haggard loaned him $23,000 during the beginning of his music career to get him going. So it don't sound like they were too poor to me.
Right. So
anyway.
So let's jump into some of the music, because it's so interesting. We were talking before the show went on about how back in the 50s, 60s, 70s, up until the mid 80s, everybody helped each other in the industry.
Yeah. Actually, they may have done it even later than that, up till the early 90s. When I was in Nashville with my career, I started in 85, and that was, country music was still country during that period of time. And but yeah, back in when my dad started, and my dad's first promo pictures that he took when he first got into the business, he was wearing one of those Porter Wagner looking suits, with the rhinestones, and he didn't know no better back then. He was doing whatever they told him he had to do, but he had on this the suit was too small for him. And if you look at the old pictures, you can tell that. What it was, Tommy Collins was an old singer back in the early 50s. He was he was like a Roger Miller back in the early 50s, but Tommy was a successful singer-songwriter back then. He was a good man. He was an old Baptist preacher too. But old Tommy tried to help my dad when he first got out of San Quentin prison. And when Dad didn't have no money, didn't have no clothes. And to take that first promo picture, Tommy loaned him one of his outfits. Well, Tommy was a really little guy. And they squeezed my dad into his outfit. But the point I wanted to make with that is that back in those days, an act would hear somebody that was just so good. The world had to hear this guy or this person. Mm-hmm. And they would jump in their feet first to try to help them, make sure that they got all the help they needed. And they would do as much as they could to help that person as they would their own career. That was the common practice of country music back in the day. And like when David called me to ask me to come do that thing for him, And he tried to offer me money for it. I'm like, David, I don't want no stinking money. You're my friend, you know. And I drove from Louisiana to Nashville and did it for him, and I'd do it again if he asked tomorrow. But if I asked David to do something, he's going to do it for nothing. Why? Because we're friends. And isn't that's a much better life than all that me stuff, you know?
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
But yeah,
Right.
go ahead.
I was just
Jimmy,
going
you go
to say
ahead.
I'm just going to say that's what we do here. We practice on helping each other, and we look for ways to bless each other. And, you know, because when you do that, it just flows right back to you. And to have Donna on the show and then have her invite me on the show and work together, and being able to have you here on the show. And we're going to talk about some of the places you're going to be performing at here in a few minutes. But most importantly, you know, it's just a wonderful thing to have friends that help each other. I mean, that's just, you know, money can't buy that. It's too precious.
It can't. You know,
money can't buy that.
No, and you know, would I rather be happy and poor, or miserable and rich? Well, I'd much rather be poor and happy. And but the good news in America, you can be both. You can be rich and happy.
Yeah.
You know, but if you find happiness in the money, you're probably not going to be happy. And it's temporary. And I've come to know this, that there's only one thing that we get to take with us after when we leave this world, and it's going to be the love that we've had in this life. You know, the relationships with each other. You know, if you know Jesus, we're going to see each other again. We're going to live together forever in love. And but if love is the only thing we get to take with us, and it seems like to me that should be the only thing you live for.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, you're exactly right. You know, on that thing we're talking about, Donna, I don't know about you, but I'd love to hear Marty tell the story about Glenn Campbell and how Glenn Campbell got his music started, because Merle Haggard practiced this, what Marty's talking about. I don't want to say anymore. I'm going to turn it over to you, Donna. Go ahead.
Absolutely, especially since Glenn Campbell lived here. He made Arizona his home.
Yes, he did. Glenn Campbell, I was telling you all a little earlier that back in the 60s, when Dad first come on the music scene, and he changed the face of country music forever with those records like Lonesome Fugitive, Mama Tried, and Sing Me Back Home, and all those great songs Dad did in the 60s. Well, Glenn Campbell sang harmony on all those old records. It was Glenn Campbell and Bonnie Owens, my dad's second wife, and they're the ones that created that unique harmony sound Dad had. And Glenn also played all the acoustic guitar on those old records. So if you ever hear the kickoff on Sing Me Back Home, that's Glenn Campbell. The kickoff on Mama Tried, that's Glenn Campbell. And that's when I first met Glenn, when he came in to sing the harmony on Mama Tried back in 66, 67. I was about 9 years old. And but he and Dad became really good friends during that period. At the time, Glenn was just a studio musician out in Los Angeles, and working a lot of studio work for the Capitol Records bunch. And but he had a lot of talent. He wanted to be a singer, and finally, I guess maybe through the work he did with Dad, he got a little recognition, and they signed him to a record deal at Capitol Records. And one of his first songs that he cut was By the Time I Get to Phoenix. And now Dad, by that time, was an established artist. He had 3 or 4 #1 records, and he was on his way. He was a big star by then. And but anyway, I was there. It was at Mama Tried when he came in to sing harmony there. And I remember he came up to my dad. He said, Merle, he said, I got this song I just recorded. He said, Capitol Records signed me to a record deal. So I've got this song. He said, I want to play it for you, and you tell me what you think about it. Well, he played this song for Dad. I was sitting right there, and it was By the Time I Get to Phoenix. And my dad said, Glenn, that's a hit record. He said, well, Merle, that's what I thought. He said, Capitol Records has put this song out. He said, but they're not promoting it. He said, nobody's playing it. He said, I can't get nothing going. He said, is there anything you guys can do to tell me what I need to do to help promote this record? Because back in those days, an artist could actually help promote their own records. You know, they could go around to the radio stations personally. Loretta Lynn did it. You know, everybody back in the day, they'd go in and introduce themselves as some jockey and get them to play the record. That's how a lot of the artists got started. And And he said, but Capitol Records is not promoting this record. He said, I think it's a hit. Could you help me tell me what you all do to promote your records and stuff? And he said, sure. He said, Glenn, what you need to do is get 2,000 singles. That's how many country radio stations were in the country at the time. He said, bring those singles to Bakersfield. He said, that's about 100 miles from Los Angeles. He said, I've got a new single coming out. We're getting ready to. He said, I don't wait around for Capitol Records to promote my records, although they're doing a pretty good job with me. He said, but we always follow up on what they're doing and do our own little thing. He said, what I'll do, we send out a single to every one of these radio stations all over the country for every single I do. And he said, but come to Bakersfield. He said, and then the next single I'm going to send out, I'll put one of yours in there with mine. He said, and I'll write a little hand note. And because all these jockeys knew who Merle Haggard was. And he said, now I'll ask them, do me a favor and give this record a spin and see what the people think. And so Glenn come to Bakersfield, California. My dad, Bonnie Owens, his second wife, and his manager, Fuzzy Owen, and Glenn Campbell, packed up and mailed out 2,000 singles out of our garage in Bakersfield. And within a couple months from that period, by the time I get to Phoenix, took off like a rocket ship. And Glenn Campbell's career was, it was within 2 years, he had a national TV show.
Right. It was cemented from that time on.
Yeah, every record, and the next 5 singles, if I'm not mistaken, were million sellers, like Galveston and Gentle on My Mind, and
Rhinestone.
Smash after smash after smash. Rhinestone didn't come to about 75.
Right.
That was, but either which way, Glenn's career was off and running, and Glenn Campbell was he was an exceptional artist, probably one of the most talented people I've ever met in my life. And the most important part about Glenn Campbell, he was one of the kindest people I've ever known in my life.
Wow.
But that's what artists did for each other back then. They helped each other. The cool thing about music, unlike maybe a foot race, if you have a foot race, you only got one person gets first. But in music, one person, hey, you can love Merle Haggard and Glenn Campbell. We're not in competition here. There's always room for as many as you can get up there at the top.
Right? You just get more that way. You just get more.
Yeah, but how in the world could you not want the world to know about Glenn Campbell? If you're sitting there listening to this man saying, man, the world's got to hear this guy. How do you cheat the world out of that? Because you're afraid he might, jealousy? Dad wasn't jealous of nobody. He was pretty impressed with Glenn Campbell's talent, but probably more importantly with this person. He was such a kind man. It was like a brother. And Glenn loved my dad like a brother and vice versa. And they continued to help each other throughout the rest of their lives together.
Yeah, that's what we're talking about here, about how me and Donna are family, and I consider you to be like a brother, Marty. We're all working together and helping together. The thing that came to mind when you were telling that story, how many entrepreneurs out there are listening saying, hey, Merle didn't wait on somebody else to get his music out there. He got in the garage and he did it himself and he got it going. Come on, get up in the morning, eat a bowl of Wheaties and get it in gear and get it going, right?
It helps if you love what you're doing. I don't. The old saying is, do some, find something you would do for nothing and try to and figure out how to make $1 with it. And if you love what you're doing, you're never going to have to work a day in your life. And but it, if you love it, and that chances are you're going to be really good at it. And if you're really good at it, the money's sure to follow. But the good news is, in my case, for instance, I don't personally care about dying on top of a mountain of money. As long as I've got enough money to pay my bills and feed my wife and my son. And, we got a basic wants and or needs, if you will. And the older I get, the simpler my wants are. And, I don't measure success by income. Although there's nothing wrong with making as much money as you can. You can help more people that way sometimes. That's what I personally find have excess financially. If I had the money Bill Gates or somebody like that has, there wouldn't be a lot of hungry people in America. Okay, I would I'd come up with something to feed these doggone people and or help somebody. That's because, like you was talking about earlier, your cup runneth over. The Bible talks about when you give to others, and to see the look in somebody's eyes that are in need. That you were lucky enough or blessed enough to come across their path when they needed something that you had, and you was able to give it to them and see the look in their eyes. Boy, what a blessing. That is worth more than money could ever money ain't worth nothing. That look back at you is worth a lot of money.
Yeah,
Absolutely.
I got to be honest with you. A couple of times when I've been thanked in my life for what little something I did, I mean, I think I got a lot more credit than what I actually did, because it's just, it just amazes me what little things can do that you can do for someone else that can really help them in their life. And that's why we're here. That's it.
I'll tell you what else. Never underestimate the power of the simple act of kindness. It don't have to be, and by the way, my memories and love for Glenn Campbell is associated with his kindness that he showed me as a little boy. And there's other people like him too. Johnny Cash was the same way. And Johnny Cash was a great artist, just like Glenn Campbell, but it's not their music that impressed me. It was them as people, and how out of their way they would go to just put a smile on somebody's face. And, you don't get to give something to everybody you see all day long, but you can smile at them and let them know that they're priceless. And show them respect, show them some love. And, man,
and
don't
dignity.
ever underestimate the power of kindness. It will stick with you. I'll never forget Glenn Campbell for his kindness.
Mm-hmm.
Wow.
And I'm a big believer that leave people with their dignity. When you try and take away their dignity, it comes back in a negative way to affect you.
Mm-hmm.
Everybody is equal. We're all seen eye to eye, and nobody survives the grave. Well, let me rephrase that. I'm going to survive the grave, but what I mean is we're all going to die.
Right.
Bill Gates, he might have $10 zillion, but he don't have no more time than I do. And we all have only so much time to spend. Now, you can either kill it or you can spend it. And I prefer to try to spend what time I have. And how do you do that? You invest it in people and let them know one simple thing. You're precious in the eyes of the Father. Okay? Mm-hmm. And I'll tell you how I know that. He sent his only son for you. And don't tell me, don't let some of these religious nuts convince you that you're worthless and you're not lovable. That's not true at all. The Father sent his only son, his most precious gift for me. That tells me that I'm of equal value to him as his own son. So yes, I am priceless.
You are. Absolutely.
Absolutely.
Some say, well, I don't believe in Jesus. Well, I'm sorry to hear that. I'm so sorry to hear that.
So, I know you go and tour on concerts. And I know this because,
there I am.
Yeah.
Who's a funny looking fellow on my left shoulder?
Look at this one, huh?
Yeah.
Let me hold it up for the camera.
I'm smiling.
Yeah, that's signed personally for me. Yep. I brought that out of my office because, yes, I am playing show and tell. I am 55 going on 4. I'm proud of it.
You know what? That picture of me shows me smile, and you're smiling from ear to ear, right? And I've noticed that, especially this modern bunch, these modern entertainers and stuff like that, they have their pictures. I'll see a billboard of them standing there, some promo shot, right? And they're all standing there looking like somebody drug a dead cat across the table. They're just like, where did they get off thinking that looking like you're mad at the world is cool? I wanted my picture to be just the opposite, just smiling as big as you could get.
Yeah, because you love what you do.
I'm doing what I love to do. Somebody wants to actually see me do it, and they're actually paying me a little bit of money to do it. What in the world have I got to be mad about?
Right?
Oh, yeah.
So where are your next tours?
Well, I believe I got a couple things coming up in September.
I got a list here.
And it'd be the first 2 things that I'm doing since COVID-19 came on the scene. They've shut us down completely for the last 4 or 5 months, whatever it's been. And because the last businesses to come back in full force is going to be the entertainment business, so at least the live entertainment. But I got a thing in Granbury, Texas. There's a church there that I do once in a while. They do a country music thing on Saturday night, and then of course their regular church service on Sunday mornings. And I do the country thing for them once a year, and then I stick around for the morning service and do a couple of my Jesus songs, and then I'm doing something the night before that in San Antonio, but I don't know where I'm going to be. But it's going.
So Jim has a list.
Okay, well, Jim knows more than I do then.
I wouldn't go that far, Marty.
No, you did. Trust me, you did.
On Friday, September the 25th, you're going to be in Statesboro, Georgia. You're going to be at you're going to be at the Emmett Kelly Theater at the Advert Center for the Arts. And then Saturday, November the 28th, you're going to be in South Carolina, Myrtle Beach, South Carolina. You're going to be at the South Carolina State Bluegrass Festival, brother.
Wow. I did a thing there way back when me and Keith Whitley did it. Yeah. Maybe the same thing.
Yeah.
That's how old I am.
Yeah, I'll tell you.
Well, do you ever come out like in the West, Marty? Like, I don't know, Arizona?
Actually, we used to do a regular thing in Casa Grande at the, they have a really neat theater in Casa Grande, Arizona. It's in between Tucson and Phoenix. Right. Yep. There was a theater there called the Paramount Theater, and the lady that owns it, her name's Debbie Martin. She's still my sister to this day. But we were doing a thing out there on a regular basis. When I first decided I didn't want to do the mainstream Nashville thing anymore, and anyway, we rented the theater and put on a show there every year for about 3 or 4 years. And but I love Arizona. I've built a little bit of a following in Arizona, and it's one of the few places in the country where I'm still kind of young. All my audience is older than I am.
Yeah, that's your official
we would
invite.
love to see you, right? We would love to see you come back to Arizona. And I know you probably prefer to come in the fall or the winter when it's a lot nicer out than 113.
That don't bother me. I grew up in Bakersfield, California, where I remember one time in Bakersfield, one summer, we had, what was it? It was 60 days in a row where it never got below 100 degrees, not even in the nighttime. Yeah, I'm used to hot. And now look.
Yeah, we have hit over 40 days, consecutive days of triple digits.
Yeah, does it stay, but even in nighttime? Does it get down?
Maybe 93.
Okay, because we in Bakersfield it stayed 100 degrees at midnight. It didn't matter. So I'm used to hot. I like hot, and I live in Louisiana right now, that where it's 100% humidity half the time, and I would rather sweat from every pore I got than shiver. I don't like the winter.
Oh
time.
Yeah. I'm with you on that one. You on that one. So I got a question for you. Who, when your dad was touring and you were with him, and you know, he hung out with everybody, right? Waylon and Willie and Chris Christophers, all of them. Who was the biggest prankster? Because I gotta know. There's got to be somebody who was always pulling a prank on somebody.
Well, I don't know about a prankster, but I don't remember anybody being a prankster per se. Marty Robbins was pretty much a knucklehead. He'll have to do a lot of goofy stuff to people. But the funniest human being in history, in country music history, was Roger Miller. Roger was just a complete okay, and probably the Robin Williams of country music is what he was. He was just like a machine gun, and he wasn't trying to be funny. He just was. And but you know, there was I don't remember any pranksters per se, but Marty was silly. He did a lot of silly things to people. But there's so many good people in country music, with few exceptions, very few exceptions. Some of the kindest people, Chris Christopherson. There's not a kinder person on this planet than Chris Christopherson. And Willie Nelson's he's in the same kind of vein. He's just such a nice man. And there's some that are a little rough around the edges, like Hank Jr. And you know, Waylon was a little bit too out loud for my liking, but he wasn't a mean guy. He was just too out loud for me. But most of the country music artists that you know, Dad, they were real close, all of them. And but Chris and Willie were probably and Roger Miller were some of my dad's dearest friends.
Yeah, because you were actually.
Go ahead, Jim.
I was just going to say, you were named after Marty Robbins, and your dad actually wrote a song for Marty, but he couldn't find Marty to record it, huh?
That's right. And in fact, it was that song that we packaged up and put Glenn's single in there with it, Today I Started Loving You Again. Dad actually wrote that song for Marty. And like we lived out in Bakersfield, and Marty lived out in Nashville. When he wrote it, he tried to call Marty the next couple of days to let him know he wrote him a song, but he couldn't find him. He got impatient, finally said, heck with it, and recorded it himself. And, you know, and I got to know Marty real well because he and Dad did a package show together, probably from 75 until Marty died in the late 70s, early 80s. And seemed like every show we did was my dad and Marty Robbins, and it was such a great package show. But I would spend more time on Marty's bus as we'd go from one show to the next, and playing poker with Marty and his band, and got to know him real well. And in fact, I got to know him well enough that when Marty passed away, I was asked to be an honorary pallbearer at his funeral. So I was an honorary pallbearer at Marty's funeral.
Wow.
That's quite an honor.
But I was
really
yes, it is.
Yeah, it was. What an artist. Wow, what a son.
Yeah, I grew up with all of them, you know, listening to them. I mean, I'll be 56 the end of the year, and there's nothing like old country.
Mm-hmm.
And those guys had to be able to sing back then. It would, you know, nowadays with technology like it is, and you know, they got machines that a lot of people don't know this, but you take an artist that they look good, that can sing okay, but they're not really that, they can't stand pitch or whatever, but they look good. They'll take them in the studio, record them, and they'll put them on this machine, and it will tune the voices to where it's perfect, and make them sound like they're really good singers. Oh yeah, half the singers that you're hearing on the radio and whatever, go have them pick up a guitar and sing for you right here in the living room, and make your ears bleed. And you know, those old boys, my dad, Marty Robbins, and Farron Young, and all them old guys, those suckers could sing. Now there was no technology,
and they were just born with it.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, you couldn't hide it. If you didn't sing, you didn't make it. Nowadays, you can sing pretty bad, and they can make you sound like $1 million in the studio.
Wow.
There's a lot of examples of it, but it's unfortunately true for a lot of the really big hit artists right now. I know I'm not going to name them because they might hear it.
Yeah.
And I don't want to hurt their feelings.
Yeah.
But if it wasn't for technology, they'd been in trouble because they're not very good singers. And on record, they sound great, but on record, they can make a rock sound good.
Yeah, they can make me sound good, couldn't they, Marty? They can make me sound good, couldn't they?
The only thing they can't do, Jim, is they can't change your looks.
I know it. I know it. They're working. They sent me a letter and said they're working on it. But I got to tell you a story. I wish
they could do something with my looks. Yeah.
Earlier this week, I was talking with a young lady on Zoom. She's about 27 or 28. She's from El Salvador. And she was talking about podcast, and she was interested in it. And I was going over some things with her and answering her questions. And I took her to TogiNet, where I'm on the radio station there. And of course, your show is still on the homepage of TogiNet, which is a good thing. And I said, "This is Marty Haggard." Had him on the show. She says, "Okay." She says, "Who's he?" I says, "You ever hear of Merle Haggard?" She says, "No." And I says, "Well, honey," I said, "you missed out." And I told her about Silver Wings, and she had never heard the song. I said, "Well, no problem." I sent it to her on YouTube, Silver Wings, to her. Within 5 minutes, she got back with me, and she says, "Holy smokes. I didn't know they had music like that." And I said, "I told you, you've been missing out. They're cheating you now."
Wow, that's cool.
Yeah,
well, you know, a lot of these young kids are finding my dad's music and Johnny Cash, all the old guys, and thanks to the internet and YouTube and whatever, they get online, they search these old. As they're searching, they've stumbled across some of those old classics, and they listen to it, and they're like, "Wow, this stuff's cool."
Yeah,
you know, Johnny Cash and my dad both told me that their crowds were getting younger just before they passed away, and they couldn't figure out how and why. And I said, "Well, people are starting to find you guys on YouTube. These kids are. They like real music too. They didn't know that what's on the radio ain't all there is out there." And but anyway, everybody likes real music.
Yeah,
it's a brand new world. These kids.
Yeah, something that comes from the heart has got a lot more feeling to it than something that just comes out of floating out of the top of the head. Really does.
You can't manufacture it. You can't make that when it's from the heart. It's like live music. You can't duplicate live and real and honest. I think the honesty might be the other word we're looking for. And when you hear somebody like my dad, who else? There's so many great artists down throughout history. See, to me, like Neil Diamond, people like that. Their music is just from their heart. And I don't care what the brand of music is, when it's something written from the heart and sang from the heart, it just has something. It's honest. And
Yeah.
anyway, it don't seem to be too common no more, but in the old days, that's pretty much all you got with heart music.
You know, one of the things that I admire about musicians, and Donna, I know you'll agree with this, is that musicians they're kind of like, they got to have the same entrepreneurial spirit that entrepreneurs have, because you got to believe in yourself when maybe no one else does. You got to keep on keeping on, because you just refuse to quit. And that takes heart, that takes soul, that takes everything. And I just like to say, when I started my manufacturing company, the only thing I could get out of a bank was a free cup of coffee and it's nice meeting you. And I got up early and I worked late and I worked on weekends, all for the same amount of money, but I built it up. And I did business with Malcoa, the waste management, and I was preferred vendor of Alcoa, very proud of that. But it was a lot of hard work and sweat equity. Many weeks, I took this much money out of my company from me, because that's what it took. But everybody else was paid. What? I felt good about it.
Well, most of the musicians that I know that are, everybody wants to play the guitar, let's say, or the piano or whatever. But there's only a handful of people that were born that have to play the guitar and have to play the piano. And like I tell a lot of people, you might want to play, but that guy there, he has to play. He was born to do it. And the old guitar player I used to have in my band, Eugene Moles, was like that. The other kids would be outside playing playing when he was in his, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11 years old, and they'd be outside playing and stuff. He'd be in his bedroom. He had no option. He had to play music. He was born to do it. And he makes a living doing it, but relative to what he could have done somewhere else, he's nowhere near where he financially could be or should be. But he's happy. He's doing what he was born to do, and he had to play music if he was going to be happy. And everybody has a gift, and everybody's got different gifts. And find that gift that rules your thinking, and just like you said, and then put some elbow grease to it, and you're going to make a living, okay? Yeah. But I would much rather be happy doing what I was born to do. And sometimes you get lucky. Hey, in the music world, there's a lot of politics involved, so you don't always succeed on a mainstream level, because there's a lot of other people in positions of power that can control or make or break an artist or whatever. So the best aren't necessarily always heard. But in my case, I'm making a decent living doing what I love to do, and I never got into this to be a star. I got into this to play music for a living, and that's what I'm doing. And if I would have got, there's some things that took place in the middle of my career that if that head-on wreck hadn't happened, I had just got nominated as one of the top new male vocalists in country music. I was on my way when that head-on wreck happened. It kind of stopped everything for about 4 years, and every single time I got right on the doorsteps of really doing well, something would happen out of my control. But you know what? I'm still doing what I did back then, and the success that could have been there. I'm glad I didn't really experience that level of success as young as I was. It probably would have killed me, But I'm happy right now. I wouldn't trade nothing about where I am right now. And if I had to change anything in my past, and if it would change where I am right now, I wouldn't change nothing about it. And sometimes you can work really, really hard and it not pan out as much as it probably should. Sometimes you don't know. That's why I said earlier, don't measure success by money. You can't do that.
No, and it's your happiness.
Go ahead, Donna. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
Yeah, it's okay. No, it's your happiness that matters. Go ahead, Jim.
I was just going to say that's your dad too, because he didn't play music for the money. He played it because he loved it, and that's what he did.
Dad told me, he said this star thing just sort of got in his way. In fact, that was never his intention. Actually, all he wanted to do was play guitar. He wanted to play guitar in the band. But every time he would play guitar in a band, they'd have him sing a song, and everybody make him sing all night long because he was so doggone good at it. And he's like, in fact, that when back when I first started playing, I'd be around the house, and Dad he always wanted to play guitar or play fiddle or something. He wanted to play an instrument. He didn't want to sing, and But every once in a while, he'd call me and say, "Hey, son, come in here and play some guitar and sing some songs for me so I can play guitar for you." And we'd jam, and I'd sit there and play my guitar and sing some songs while Dad played on the guitar. That's what he wanted to do, was play music for a living. And he told me many times that this dadgum star thing got in my dad way. He said, "I don't enjoy the star thing." He said, "I just want to be a singer or a guitar player, you know?"
Yeah.
The star thing just sort of happened for him. And but he got what he wanted. He played guitar and fiddle, and he had his own band. He was successful at it. He just happened to be a star on top of it.
Right.
Yeah, because when they performed, I mean, there were professional people who professional singers who did not want to follow him because your dad was that good.
Right.
No, but hey, there's certain things, you know, there's certain people in the music business you don't follow. And Dad was one of them. And I've heard many a story of Johnny Cash told me that one time. He said, I went on after Merle one night. He said, "That was the last time they ever put me on after Merle Haggard again." He said, he told his manager, he said, "Don't you ever put me on after him again." He said, "My God, they're hollering for Merle Haggard all through my show." You know, there's just some people you don't follow.
That's right. I watched that same thing in 1991 here in Phoenix when Merle, Clint Black was the lead, and Lori Morgan.
I know the story. And they put him on first. The story is, and the show's over.
Put Lori on first.
Oh, did
then they put Merle on.
Well, you know what?
And
They must have learned something, because my wife went and seen them the very same package show when it first started, and they put my dad on first. And she said it was just like the show was over after he got done.
Yeah.
But see, at that time you're talking about in '91, Clint was one of the hotter acts in country music, and I'll guarantee Clint Black was not happy to have to follow Merle Haggard every night.
No. And I mean, that's why it was deafening when Merle walked on stage. And I remember it like it was yesterday.
Yeah.
You know, here he has this superstar status, right? All these years in country music. And he just walks out like, you know, here's my guitar. I'm here to play. I mean, there was nothing, you know, he wasn't pretentious. He was just Merle out there to play. You could see it.
Well, you know what I've always said about the modern music and what Dad had to offer. You know, in Dad's case, it was do as much as you can to stay out of the way, because when you're that gifted, the last thing you want is a bunch of visual distractions. You know,
right?
The fancy light shows and explosions going off, people running and gunning, and like Garth Brooks does. You know, when you're as good as Dad is, all you need is a stool and a guitar. Okay,
right.
And the less you get, the less you throw out there, the better. But you know, if you ain't a great singer, if you ain't got great songs, and you just ain't got that it factor like Dad, you might want to run all over the stage and put on some light shows, because it's more important what they see instead of what they hear.
Right.
That's amazing.
But Dad,
I love it.
Dad was exceptional. He is my dad, so I know I'm a little biased and all that good stuff. But there was something different when we'd go to those special get-togethers in Nashville, award shows and stuff like that, where everybody in the business would be in the same room. And my dad would walk into the room, and every one of them would stop what they're doing and turn them, and all the attention went to Merle. And
right,
you know, I don't care who it was. Like that one song of Neil Diamond's, every ear in the place was on him. Every time he just walked in the room, he'd stop. Everybody just stopped what they're doing. Dad had that something special. He not only a great singer, great songwriter, a good-looking guy, and all these obvious gifts, but he just had a charisma about it that was equal to his talents.
He did. Yes. He did.
You know,
he had a stage presence that just couldn't be taught.
Right. He absolutely did.
It's an anointing. It's something powerful about it. I don't know what it is, but I do know one thing: you can't teach it. Okay,
no, you're born with it.
Yeah.
You're born with it.
It's a gift from heaven.
It is. It is. Well, this hour has completely gone that quick, guys. I can't even believe that we've been talking an hour. I mean, this is like old home week, right? This is like old home week. I love it.
I've got time. I've got a lot of time on my hands. COVID-19 has made sure of that. So if you need me for any more, I'm more than available.
Okay.
I love it.
Yeah.
I love it. Well, Jim, I want to thank you so much for being on the show. Marty, I appreciate you being on the show, and we'll catch up as soon as we're off air. So stick around. Thank you, gentlemen.
You.
I appreciate it.
I guess this is an entrepreneur show, right? Where you're talking to other folks that are trying to start businesses and whatever.
A little bit of everything like that, because entrepreneurs, they love music too, and they appreciate hearing good stories.
That's right.
People struggle.
We're actually talking about simply the loves of your life. Find something you have a passion for, and
there you go. You said it better than me.
Figure out how to make a dollar with it, and you'll be the best at it.
That's perfect for us. I appreciate it. Oh my goodness. Thank you so much. Marty, I can't thank you enough for being on my show. What a treat and what a pleasure.
Thank you, Donna. And I will get to meet you physically someday. And we'll probably see you in Arizona, because we're probably going to come back to Casa Grande for probably a week at a time. And so keep your ears out and eyes out. And if you see me coming to the area, come say hello.
Well, I'll be there.
Okay.
It's only an hour. The way I drive, it's only about 40 minutes for me.
Where you at in Phoenix?
Yeah, Phoenix? Tempe. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Oh, Tempe. It's not but 30 minutes from here.
Yeah, but I'm by ASU.
Okay.
So not too far. So I'll be there. So, all right, gentlemen, I appreciate it. This has been what an incredible hour. It has gone in about 3 seconds, I swear to you. Having Marty Haggard, having Jim Grant, my incredible co-host, who I must say, folks, if it wasn't for Jim Grant, I would not have met Marty and had him on the show. So from the bottom of my heart, thank you, Jim. What a pleasure and an honor it is to be in this journey in life with you. And Marty, you are a treasure. And I am just blessed that I've got to interview you twice. And yes, we will meet in person. We are at the end of our show, folks. I hope you enjoyed it as much as I did. Stay tuned next week. We're going to have another terrific show. And as always, make sure that you have the highest energy in your life. I'm Donna Guinouard, High Energy Performance Coaching. We'll see you next week. Be safe.